Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you'd hand them your entire future without a second thought? Have you ever believed in someone so deeply that even when red flags appeared, you convinced yourself they were just shadows? Have you ever been so certain about a person's character that you'd bet everything you own on their integrity? I did. And that trust cost me $2 million in cryptocurrency and nearly destroyed my life. My name is Emma Reynolds, and I'm a 32-year-old software engineer from San Francisco. This is the story of how my best friend, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world, orchestrated the most devastating crypto scam I could have ever imagined. This is about blockchain betrayal, digital manipulation, an international chase across continents, and a quest for justice that took me halfway across the world. But most importantly, this is about how I refused to be a victim when someone stole my crypto fortune and thought they could disappear into paradise without consequences. Let me take you back to where it all began, 3 years ago, when I met someone who would change my life forever. Someone who would become my closest confidant, my mentor in the cryptocurrency world, and ultimately the architect of my financial destruction. It was October 2021, and the tech world was buzzing with cryptocurrency mania like never before. Bitcoin had crossed $60,000, Ethereum was breaking records daily, NFTs were selling for millions, Dogecoin had made ordinary people millionaires overnight, and everyone seemed to be getting rich from crypto investments. The energy was electric, intoxicating, impossible to ignore. I was attending a blockchain conference in Austin, Texas, skeptical but curious about this digital gold rush. I'd always been cautious with money, the type who researched every investment for months before making a move, the type who read financial books religiously and never made impulsive decisions. But something about the energy in that conference hall was different. It wasn't just greed, it was revolution. People were talking about democratizing finance, about breaking free from traditional banking systems, about creating generational wealth through smart crypto plays. That's where I met him, Damian Cross, 28 years old, charismatic, brilliant, well-dressed, articulate, and apparently a cryptocurrency genius who'd turned $50,000 into $5 million in just 18 months through strategic investments and trading. He was giving a presentation on decentralized finance and yield farming strategies, and I was absolutely mesmerized, not just by his knowledge of blockchain technology, but how he made complex concepts about smart contracts, liquidity pools, and automated market makers sound simple and accessible. He talked about DeFi protocols, staking rewards, and crypto arbitrage like he was discussing the weather. He had this casual confidence that made you believe every word. After his talk, I approached him at the networking mixer, my curiosity overcoming my usual reservation. "That was incredible," I said, extending my hand with genuine admiration. "I'm Emma, software engineer but completely new to the crypto space. You made something I thought was impossibly complex sound actually achievable." Damien's smile was warm and genuine, reaching his eyes in a way that immediately put me at ease. "Thanks so much, Emma. Software engineer? Then you're already halfway there to understanding crypto. Understanding code is understanding blockchain. You just need someone to show you the ropes, to guide you through the noise and help you identify real opportunities." We talked for over 2 hours that night, long after most attendees had left. He told me about his journey from being a struggling freelance developer barely making rent to discovering cryptocurrency in 2017 when most people thought it was a joke. He'd bought Bitcoin at $4,000 when his friends called him crazy, Ethereum at $200 when everyone said it was worthless, and had the discipline and foresight to hold through every crash, through every media prediction of doom. But the real money, he explained with infectious enthusiasm, wasn't just in holding these digital assets. It was in DeFi, decentralized finance platforms where you could earn passive income through staking and yield farming, where your crypto could work for you around the clock. "Traditional banks give you what, 0.5% interest annually?" He laughed, shaking his head at the absurdity. I'm getting 12 to 20% APY on some of my crypto holdings. Some DeFi protocols are offering even higher yields. It's absolutely insane, Emma. This is the future of finance, and we're watching it unfold in real time. I was hooked, not just on the potential returns that seemed almost too good to be true, but on Damien himself. He wasn't like the typical crypto bros I'd encountered online and in forums, the ones constantly shouting about Lambos and moon missions, pumping worthless coins, and preying on naive investors. He was analytical, patient, thoughtful, and genuinely seemed to want to help people understand this new financial landscape rather than just profiting from their ignorance. We exchanged numbers that night, and over the next few months, Damien became one of my closest friends. We'd meet for coffee every week at this little place in the Mission District, and he'd teach me about blockchain technology, smart contracts, various crypto investment strategies, market cycles, and how to identify legitimate projects from scams. He never pressured me to invest, which made me trust him even more. Instead, he encouraged me to learn first, to understand the underlying technology before putting in any money, to do my own research and make informed decisions. The crypto space is full of scammers, he'd warn me seriously. People who promise guaranteed returns, who pressure you to invest quickly, who can't explain the technology behind their projects. Never trust anyone who can't show you exactly how the system works. Transparency is everything. The irony of those words would haunt me later, but at the time, they made me trust him completely. By March 2022, I'd done extensive research, read countless white papers, watched hundreds of hours of educational content, and felt ready to dip my toes into the crypto waters. I started small and conservative, investing $5,000 split between Bitcoin and Ethereum through Coinbase, one of the most reputable exchanges. Damien helped me set up my hardware wallet for security, taught me about private keys and seed phrases, warned me about phishing attempts and common scams, and basically held my hand through every step of the process like the good friend I believed he was. The key to success in crypto is patience and discipline, he'd say repeatedly. Don't chase pumps just because everyone's talking about a coin. Don't panic sell during dumps when the market crashes. Invest in solid projects with real technology and hold long term. That's how wealth is built. My initial investment grew steadily over the following months. Nothing dramatic or life-changing, but enough to validate my decision to enter the crypto market. By June 2022, my $5,000 had turned into $7,200. I was thrilled, feeling like I'd finally found a path to financial freedom. And Damien was genuinely happy for me, celebrating my wins like they were his own, never showing a trace of jealousy or ulterior motive. But then, one evening in late June over dinner at our favorite sushi place in Japantown, he told me about something bigger, something that would change everything. Emma, I've been working on something special, he said, his voice dropping to a confidential tone. A private investment fund, just for close friends and family, people I trust. We're using advanced arbitrage bots and sophisticated yield farming strategies across multiple DeFi platforms simultaneously. The returns have been incredible, averaging 18% monthly. Some months we've hit 25%. 18% monthly. My mind reeled at the implications. My hands trembled slightly as I calculated what that meant. If I invested $50,000, I could potentially make $9,000 a month in passive income. In a year, that could turn into over $200,000. In 2 years, I could be a millionaire. Financial independence could be mine in less time than it would take to get a promotion at my corporate job. How is that even possible? I asked, my natural skepticism warring with my excitement and the trust I had in Damien. Those returns seem extraordinary. What's the catch? What are the risks? Damien pulled out his laptop right there in the restaurant and showed me everything. Charts, graphs, detailed transaction histories across different blockchain networks like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon. He explained in technical detail how his proprietary bot identified price differences across exchanges, sometimes differences of only a fraction of a percent, and executed trades in milliseconds, capturing profit from market inefficiencies before they disappeared. He showed me smart contracts on Ethereum's blockchain that were automatically generating yields through providing liquidity to decentralized exchanges. He walked me through the entire technical infrastructure, answering every question I had with patience and clarity. "Look, I know it sounds too good to be true," he said, meeting my eyes with apparent sincerity. "That's exactly why I'm only offering this opportunity to people I trust, people who won't panic when there's market volatility, people who understand crypto well enough to know that high returns come with periods of adjustment. I don't want random investors who'll freak out during a temporary dip. I want people who get it, and you're perfect for this, Emma. You understand the technology. You're patient. You're exactly the kind of investor this fund needs." I should have questioned more deeply. I should have asked for third-party audits from reputable firms. I should have wondered why, if this strategy was so profitable, he needed outside investors at all instead of just scaling his own capital. I should have consulted with financial advisors who specialized in cryptocurrency. I should have researched whether 18% monthly returns were even realistic in any legitimate investment vehicle. But I didn't do any of those things, because I trusted him completely, because he'd never steered me wrong in the 6 months I'd known him, because he was my friend, my mentor, the person who'd patiently taught me everything I knew about crypto without ever asking for anything in return. I started with $50,000, money I'd saved over 5 years of working in the tech industry, living frugally and investing conservatively in index funds. It represented years of sacrifice and discipline. Damien set me up with access to a custom dashboard, a sleek, professional-looking interface where I could track my investment in real time, see the daily trades being executed, monitor the performance of different strategies, and even withdraw funds whenever I wanted with just 48 hours notice. And true to his word, the returns were absolutely phenomenal. The first month, my $50,000 grew by $8,200. The second month, I made $9,400. By the third month, my initial $50,000 investment had grown to $72,600. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'd found the golden ticket that everyone dreams about. Financial freedom was no longer a distant fantasy, but an approaching reality. I told my sister Rebecca about it during our weekly phone call, showing her the numbers on my dashboard, explaining the strategy as Damien had explained it to me. She was immediately skeptical, asked probing questions I couldn't fully answer, warned me about things that seemed too good to be true, reminded me about stories she'd heard of people losing everything in investment schemes. But I dismissed her concerns perhaps too quickly. She didn't understand cryptocurrency like I did. She didn't know Damien like I did. She was being overprotective, seeing danger where there was only opportunity. By October 2022, 6 months into the investment, my portfolio showed $135,000. I was making significantly more from this investment than from my actual software engineering job, where I worked 40+ hours a week. The passive income was life-changing. I started fantasizing about quitting my job, traveling the world, maybe starting my own tech company focused on blockchain education to help others the way Damien had helped me. Damien and I celebrated my success over expensive champagne at a rooftop bar overlooking the San Francisco Bay. "You deserve every bit of this, Emma," he said, raising his glass in a toast. "You took a calculated risk when others would have been too afraid. You educated yourself, you trusted in the technology, and now it's paying off. Not many people have the courage to do what you did." I felt vindicated. All those people who'd called me reckless, including my sister, had been wrong. I'd made the right decision. But then, in mid-May 2023, something changed. The dashboard started showing smaller returns. Instead of the consistent 15 to 20% monthly gains, I was seeing 8%, then 5%, then 3%. When I asked Damien about it over text, he responded quickly with what seemed like a reasonable explanation. Market conditions had shifted dramatically. The Federal Reserve was raising interest rates aggressively. The overall crypto market was in a downturn. The yield farming APYs had decreased across the entire DeFi space as platforms adjusted to the bear market. It was temporary, he assured me with confidence. These cycles happen in crypto. The patient investors who held through the down periods always came out ahead. Should I withdraw some of my investment to lock in gains? I asked, feeling the first flutter of genuine concern in my stomach. You absolutely can if you want to, he replied. But historically, and I've been through 3 market cycles now, the people who hold through the downturns see the biggest gains when things inevitably bounce back. We're talking a matter of weeks, maybe 2 months at most. Then we'll be back to 15 to 20% monthly. But it's your money, Emma. You make the decision you're comfortable with. I decided to hold, to trust the process, to trust Damien. That decision still haunts me every single day. By early June 2023, my dashboard showed $342,000, down from the peak of $412,000. I'd lost $70,000 in unrealized gains, but I was still up significantly from my original investment. I messaged Damien asking for a more detailed explanation of what was happening, feeling anxiety creeping in despite my efforts to stay calm. He sent me a long technical analysis about macroeconomic market conditions, Federal Reserve monetary policy, institutional crypto adoption rates, regulatory uncertainty, and historical bear market patterns. It all sounded plausible and well-reasoned. He included charts, linked to articles from reputable financial publications, and generally presented himself as someone who was managing through a difficult period with expertise and transparency. Then, on July 15, 2023, I woke up to my worst nightmare becoming reality. I couldn't access the dashboard. The website was completely down, showing a generic error page. I tried multiple devices, thinking maybe my laptop was the problem. I cleared my cache and cookies. I used different browsers. I tried from my phone. Nothing worked. The cold dread spreading through my body was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might be having a heart attack. I was shaking, my hands trembling so badly I could barely hold my phone. I called Damien immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I called 15 more times in rapid succession. Voicemail every single time. I texted him, "The dashboard is down. What's going on?" No response. I sent multiple messages over the next hour, my panic escalating with each unanswered attempt. "Damien, please respond. I need to know what's happening. This isn't funny. Call me back immediately. I'm seriously freaking out. Just let me know everything is okay." Nothing. Complete silence. Finally, I threw on clothes and drove to his apartment building in downtown San Francisco, breaking several traffic laws in my desperation. The doorman, an older gentleman I'd seen many times when visiting Damien, looked at me with what I now recognize was pity. "Are you here for Mr. Cross?" he asked. "Yes. Is he home? It's an emergency." The doorman shook his head slowly. "Mr. Cross moved out 3 days ago, miss. Very sudden. Didn't give much notice to building management, just paid the lease termination fee and left." I felt the blood drain from my face. The lobby started spinning. I grabbed the desk to steady myself. "Moved out? Where did he go? Did he leave a forwarding address?" "I'm sorry, miss. He didn't leave any information, just took his belongings and left." I stumbled back to my car and sat there shaking, my mind refusing to process what was happening. This couldn't be real. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he had a family emergency and had to leave suddenly. Maybe his phone was broken and he couldn't contact anyone. Maybe the website was just experiencing technical difficulties and he was working frantically to fix it. But deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew exactly what this was. I knew what had happened, and the knowledge was crushing me, suffocating me, destroying me from the inside out. I spent the next 48 hours in a frantic blur of desperation and denial. I filed a police report with the San Francisco Police Department, though the officer who took my statement seemed skeptical about their ability to help with a cryptocurrency case. I contacted the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, filling out extensive forms detailing everything that had happened. I reached out to every single mutual acquaintance Damien and I had, asking desperately if anyone knew where he was or how to contact him. Most people had no idea what I was talking about. They hadn't heard from Damien in weeks. But one person, a guy named Jake, who'd been at that original blockchain conference where I'd met Damien, told me something that made my blood run cold. "I talked to Damien about 2 weeks ago," Jake said when I called him. "He told me he was taking a sabbatical, moving to Southeast Asia for a while to clear his head. Said he needed a break from the stress of managing investments and dealing with the crypto bear market. I thought it was weird timing, especially so sudden, but I didn't think much of it. Why? What's going on?" Southeast Asia. He'd told someone he was moving to Southeast Asia 2 weeks before he disappeared. This wasn't a sudden emergency. This wasn't an unexpected crisis. This was planned, calculated, premeditated. He'd been preparing his escape while still taking my messages, still reassuring me everything was fine, still pretending to be my friend. The FBI agent I spoke with over the phone was sympathetic but devastatingly blunt. "Ma'am, I want to be honest with you about what you're facing. Cryptocurrency scams are incredibly difficult to prosecute. The decentralized nature of blockchain, the ability to move funds through multiple wallets and exchanges, converting between different cryptocurrencies, using privacy coins and mixers, all of this makes tracking and recovering funds extremely challenging. If the perpetrator has transferred the funds internationally, which it sounds like he has, recovery is nearly impossible. We'll absolutely open an investigation and do everything we can, but I want you to manage your expectations. The realistic chance of recovering your funds is very, very low." Manage my expectations. I just lost $200,000, my entire life savings, 7 years of disciplined saving and sacrifice, and I was supposed to manage my expectations? I thanked the agent robotically and ended the call. The next few weeks were the absolute darkest period of my entire life. I couldn't eat more than a few bites without feeling nauseous. I couldn't sleep for more than 2 or 3 hours at a time before waking up in a panic, the reality of what had happened crashing over me again. I took emergency leave from work because I couldn't concentrate on code, couldn't focus during meetings, couldn't function like a normal human being. My sister, Rebecca, flew in from Boston to stay with me, taking time off from her own job to make sure I didn't completely fall apart. She didn't say, "I told you so," which somehow made it worse. Her kindness and refusal to judge me for ignoring her warnings just amplified my shame and self-loathing. I'd been so arrogant, so certain I knew better than her, so convinced that she just didn't understand, and now I was paying the price for that arrogance. I spent days just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation with Damien, looking for signs I'd missed, clues I should have caught. How had I been so stupid? How had I not seen this coming? The self-recrimination was relentless and brutal. But as the initial shock wore off, as the numbness started to fade, it was replaced by something else, something hot and fierce and powerful. Rage. Pure, burning, all-consuming rage. Damien had looked me in the eye hundreds of times. He'd called me his friend, his trusted confidant. We'd celebrated birthdays together, shared personal struggles, talked about our dreams and fears, and the entire time he'd been planning to rob me blind. He'd weaponized our friendship, turned it into a tool for theft, and he'd done it all with a smile, with warmth, with apparent sincerity. I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I wasn't going to be just another victim, just another statistic, just another person who got scammed and accepted their loss and moved on. He'd chosen the wrong person to betray. I started investigating with the intensity and focus I usually reserved for complex coding projects. I created multiple fake social media accounts under different personas and joined cryptocurrency investment groups looking for anyone who'd been scammed by Damien or knew anything about his fund. I posted carefully worded messages asking if anyone had experience with Damien Krause's private investment opportunities. Within a week, I found my first fellow victim, then another, then another. Eventually, I found 12 people total, 12 victims, each with remarkably similar stories to mine. They'd met Damien at various crypto conferences and networking events over the past 2 years. He'd befriended them, taught them about cryptocurrency, earned their trust, and then convinced them to invest in his private fund. The investments ranged from $50,000 to $500,000. Total estimated losses across all victims exceeded $5 million. We created a private Signal group chat, sharing information, pooling our resources, coordinating our efforts. One victim, a woman named Patricia from New York who'd lost $300,000, had hired a private investigator who specialized in cryptocurrency fraud and blockchain forensics. Through detailed blockchain analysis, tracing transactions across multiple networks, the investigator had mapped out the flow of our funds. Our money had been moved through dozens of different wallets in a complex pattern designed to obscure the trail. It had been converted from Ethereum to Bitcoin, then to privacy coins like Monero and Zcash, then back to Bitcoin, then split across multiple smaller wallets. Eventually, the funds appeared to have been cashed out through various international exchanges in countries with weak regulatory oversight and cryptocurrency laws. But there was one critical lead. Someone in our victim group had spotted an Instagram post from Damien. He'd posted a photo of a spectacular beach sunset, tagged in Canggu, Bali, Indonesia. The post had been up for less than 4 hours before he deleted it, but screenshots are forever. Another victim had actually seen him on a Zoom call, background recognition software that matched his apartment to a listing in Bali. Bali, the paradise island. He was living it up in one of the most beautiful places on Earth, spending our stolen money on his tropical fantasy while we dealt with financial ruin. I made a decision in that moment that surprised even me, that my sister thought was absolutely insane. I was going to Indonesia. I was going to find Damien Cross, and I was going to make him face what he'd done, face his victims, face the consequences of his actions. Emma, this is genuinely dangerous, Rebecca argued when I told her my plan. What if he's connected to serious criminals or organized crime? What if he has dangerous associates who protect him? What if you get hurt or worse? This isn't worth your life. Then I get hurt, I said, my voice hard and determined in a way she'd never heard before. I'm not letting him win. I'm not letting him destroy my life and just walk away to enjoy his stolen paradise. I'm not giving him that satisfaction. I bought a plane ticket for mid-September 2023. I told my workplace I was taking an extended personal leave for family reasons, not specifying that the family reason was hunting down the friend who destroyed me financially. I didn't tell anyone except my sister where I was really going or why. I packed light, brought my laptop with all the evidence I'd gathered, and carried printouts of every transaction, every conversation, every piece of documentation I had. The flight from San Francisco to Bali with a layover in Singapore was 14 brutal hours. I didn't sleep a single minute. I couldn't. I spent the entire flight going over my plan repeatedly, thinking through every possible scenario, every way the confrontation might go, every backup plan if things didn't work out. What if he'd already left Bali? What if he saw me coming and disappeared again? What if he refused to talk to me? What if he called the police on me for harassment? What if he became violent or threatened? I ran through hundreds of possibilities, trying to prepare for anything. I landed in Denpasar, Bali's main airport, in late September 2023. The humidity hit me immediately as I stepped off the plane, a wall of wet heat so different from San Francisco's cool fog. Bali was stunningly beautiful, a paradise of emerald rice terraces, ornate temples, pristine beaches, and warm, smiling people. But I wasn't there for vacation or spiritual renewal. I was there for justice. I checked into a small guest house in Canggu, the beach town where Damien had been spotted. It was a surfer's paradise, full of trendy cafes, yoga studios, co-working spaces for digital nomads, and beach clubs where people danced until sunrise. The perfect place for a crypto scammer to hide and enjoy his stolen millions. Finding someone in Canggu, it turned out, wasn't as difficult as I'd feared. The expat community, particularly the digital nomad and crypto investor crowd, was surprisingly tight-knit. They frequented the same cafes, worked at the same co-working spaces, surfed at the same beaches. Everyone seemed to know everyone, or at least know of them. I started showing Damien's photo around to bartenders, cafe workers, and co-working space staff, claiming he was an old friend from San Francisco I was trying to surprise for his birthday. People were friendly and helpful, the Balinese hospitality genuine and warm. Within 3 days of methodical searching, asking questions, following leads, I had a location and a pattern. He was a regular at a beachfront cafe called Drifter. Came in almost every morning around 9 a.m. for coffee and to work on his laptop, probably managing his stolen cryptocurrency fortune. The barista who told me this information, a young Australian guy named Matt, had even chatted with Damien several times about crypto trading strategies. "Yeah, Damien's a cool guy," Matt said innocently, having no idea who he was really talking about. "Super knowledgeable about crypto, always has interesting insights about the market. He's doing really well for himself, apparently." My hands shook when I got that information, adrenaline flooding my system. After months of anguish, countless sleepless nights, financial devastation, and cross-continental pursuit, I was about to come face to face with the man who'd ruined my life. I arrived at Drifter Cafe at 8:30 the next morning, positioning myself carefully at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance, but slightly obscured by a large potted plant. I wore sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. I ordered a coffee I couldn't drink because my stomach was in knots. I set up my phone to record, angling it so it would capture anyone entering the cafe. At 9:17 a.m., he walked in. He looked exactly the same, and yet completely different. Same facial features, same height, same walk, but he'd changed in subtle ways. He was deeply tanned from the tropical sun, his hair slightly longer and sun-bleached, wearing casual linen clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. He looked relaxed, healthy, utterly at peace. There wasn't a trace of guilt or concern on his face. He looked like a man without a care in the world, someone living their absolute best life. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode out of my chest. I watched him order a fancy coffee drink and a smoothie bowl, watched him joke with the staff like he was a beloved regular, watched him settle at his usual table by the window with his MacBook and wireless headphones. He was completely oblivious to my presence, completely unaware that his past had just walked into his present. I watched him for 15 long minutes, forcing myself to breathe slowly, forcing myself to stick to my plan rather than giving in to the overwhelming urge to scream at him right then and there. Part of me wanted to storm over there and throw my coffee in his face. Part of me wanted to physically attack him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he'd caused me. But I forced myself to remain calm, to be strategic, to remember that I was recording everything and needed him to incriminate himself. Finally, I stood up, pulled out my phone with the voice recorder app running, and approached his table on shaking legs. "Hey, Damien." He looked up casually, and I watched the exact moment recognition hit him. His eyes widened, the color literally drained from his tan face. His mouth opened slightly in shock. For a beautiful moment, I saw genuine fear in his eyes, the fear of a predator realizing they're face-to-face with prey who'd fought back. Then, incredibly, impossibly, his expression shifted and he smiled, actually smiled at me. "Emma, Holy shit! Wow, what a small world. What are you doing in Bali? His audacity was absolutely breathtaking. The sheer nerve to smile at me, to pretend this was a pleasant surprise, to act like we were old friends running into each other by chance in a foreign country. I almost admired the performance even as I hated him for it. What am I doing here? I kept my voice low but couldn't keep the tremor of rage out of it. I'm here for you, Damien. I'm here because you stole $200,000 from me and disappeared like a coward. I'm here because you destroyed my life. The smile faltered slightly. People at nearby tables were starting to look over, sensing tension in the air. Emma, let's not do this here. Can we go somewhere private and talk about this like adults? No, we're talking right here, right now, where there are witnesses. I want my money back. Every single penny you stole from me and the 11 other people you scammed. He sighed, running his hand through his hair in a gesture I'd seen 1,000 times before. Look, I know you're upset, and I understand why. Things didn't go the way we planned with the fund. The market crashed harder than anyone expected. I lost money too. This wasn't some scam, Emma. It was a failed investment. Don't you dare lie to me. My voice was louder than I intended, and now everyone in the cafe was definitely watching. I know what you did. I know you created fake dashboards showing fabricated returns. I know there never was any arbitrage bot or yield farming strategy. I know you ran a Ponzi scheme using new investors' money to pay returns to early investors. I have blockchain evidence, Damien. Experts have traced the funds. You didn't lose anything. You stole from us, and you're living here in paradise on our money. His expression hardened, the friendly mask slipping completely away to reveal something colder underneath. You have no idea what you're talking about. You made a risky investment in a volatile market. It didn't pan out. That's not a crime, Emma. That's investing. It is a crime when you lied about what you were doing with the money. It is a crime when you created fake dashboards showing fabricated returns. It is a crime when you disappeared with millions of dollars. It's called wire fraud, Damien, and the FBI is already investigating you. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. This conversation is over. I don't know what you think you're going to accomplish by coming here, but you're wasting your time and making a scene. Go home, Emma. Move on with your life. He started to walk away, trying to leave the cafe, to escape this confrontation, just like he'd escaped San Francisco. I followed him out onto the street, my phone still recording every word. I'm not going anywhere, I shouted after him. I'm going to the police. I'm going to the FBI liaison at the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you did. I'm going to destroy you the way you destroyed me. He spun around, and for the first time, I saw real anger flash across his face. You really want to go down that road? You think the Indonesian police care about some American crypto dispute? You think the FBI can touch me here? I've covered my tracks perfectly, Emma. I've consulted with lawyers, real expensive ones. There's no evidence that would hold up in any court. You've got nothing. I have 12 victims willing to testify. We have records of every conversation, every promise you made. We have the blockchain trail showing exactly where you moved the money. We have everything we need. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to something almost threatening. And I have lawyers, really good ones, who specialize in cryptocurrency law. You come after me legally, and I'll tie you up in court for years. I'll sue you for harassment, for defamation, for whatever it takes. You'll spend every penny you have fighting me, and you'll still lose. Is that really what you want? To throw good money after bad? I felt tears of frustration burning in my eyes, but I absolutely refused to let them fall, refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break down. I want justice. I want what you took from me. I want you to face consequences for what you did. He studied me for a long moment, his expression shifting between anger and something that might have been regret, though I didn't trust it for a second. Look, Emma, I'm genuinely sorry it ended this way. I really am. You were a good friend, and I never wanted to hurt you specifically, but this is business. The crypto world is cutthroat and ruthless. Sometimes people win big, and sometimes people lose everything. That's just how it is. That's the risk everyone takes. You didn't give me a chance to assess the real risk because you lied about everything. My voice cracked with emotion. If you'd told me the truth, told me you were running a Ponzi scheme with no real investment strategy, I never would have given you a single dollar. You manipulated me. You weaponized our friendship. That's not business, Damien. That's betrayal. For just a fraction of a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt? Shame? Remorse? Whatever it was, it disappeared quickly, replaced by cold indifference. I'm done with this conversation, he said flatly. Don't follow me, don't contact me, and don't make more scenes. Consider this your only warning. Then he walked away down the narrow Canggu street, disappearing into the crowd of scooters, tourists, and locals going about their daily lives. I stood there, trembling with rage and frustration, watching him vanish just like he'd vanished from San Francisco, watching him walk away from accountability once again. I stood on that street for a long time, cars and motorcycles whizzing past me, the tropical heat pressing down, processing what had just happened. The confrontation hadn't gone the way I'd hoped. He'd admitted nothing on recording that could be used as clear evidence against him. He'd been careful with his words, consistently framing everything as a failed investment rather than fraud. And his threat about expensive lawyers wasn't empty. I knew from my research that pursuing this through traditional legal channels would drain whatever money I had left and likely result in nothing. But I wasn't done. Not even remotely close to being done. Over the next 2 weeks, I became completely obsessed with the mission. I followed Damien around Canggu like a shadow, carefully documenting his routine, photographing his lifestyle, building an undeniable case that he was living lavishly on stolen money. His rented villa in an expensive gated community that cost at least $5,000 a month. His dinners at high-end restaurants where single meals cost what many Balinese families earned in a week. His nights at exclusive beach clubs buying bottles of premium liquor for tables full of people. His brand-new rented Ducati motorcycle. His private surf lessons. His luxury spa treatments. Every photograph was another piece of evidence, another nail in the coffin I was building. I created detailed spreadsheets tracking his spending, estimating his monthly burn rate at somewhere around $15,000 to $20,000, money he could only have because he'd stolen it from people who'd trusted him. I also reached out to local journalists, both Indonesian and international correspondents based in Bali. I pitched them the story of an American cryptocurrency scammer hiding in Bali, living a luxury lifestyle while his victims back home struggled with financial ruin. Most weren't interested or said it wasn't newsworthy enough, but one journalist, a freelance investigative reporter named Aria Chen who wrote for several major international publications, was immediately intrigued. This is exactly the kind of story people need to hear, Aria said when we met at a cafe in Seminyak. Cryptocurrency scams are epidemic right now, but they're often treated as abstract financial crimes. Your story puts a human face on it. It shows the real-world impact of these schemes, and it shows that scammers aren't faceless criminals hiding in basements. They're people living openly, enjoying their stolen money without consequences. I gave her everything I had. All the documents meticulously organized over months of investigation, blockchain evidence showing the flow of funds across multiple wallets and exchanges, testimonies from other victims who'd agreed to go on record, screenshots of conversations with Damien where he'd made specific promises about the investment strategy, bank records showing my transfers, the fake dashboard showing fabricated returns, and, most importantly, current photographs of Damien living his luxury Bali lifestyle. This is incredibly strong investigative material, Arias said, reviewing everything with the careful eye of an experienced journalist. But to really make this story powerful and impossible to ignore, I need more. I need to show not just that he's here in Bali, but that he's openly flaunting his wealth, that there's a stark contrast between his paradise life and his victims' suffering. Can you get me that level of detail? I could, and I would. Over the following week, I shadowed Damien more intensely than ever before. I photographed him at an ultra-luxury spa getting treatments that cost $400. I documented him at high-end restaurants, capturing images of elaborate tasting menus and expensive wine bottles. I got footage of him at a beach club surrounded by a group of young travelers ordering round after round of premium cocktails and acting like the successful crypto investor he pretended to be. Even I managed to befriend some of his social circle by hanging around the same co-working spaces and cafes. I presented myself as a digital nomad interested in cryptocurrency, and people were eager to talk. They told me about Damien, the crypto genius who'd made millions in the last bull run, who always had fascinating market insights, who was incredibly generous picking up tabs and hosting dinners. "He's living the dream, you know," one young guy from Australia told me enthusiastically. "Made his fortune in crypto, retired at 28, now just enjoying life in paradise. That's what we're all working toward." The irony was sickening. Damien had successfully reinvented himself in Bali as a legitimate crypto success story, and people admired him for it. The article published on October 18, 2023, in a major online financial publication. The headline read, "American cryptocurrency scammer flees to Bali paradise while victims seek justice." It was devastating and comprehensive, laying out everything in meticulous detail. Damien's scheme presented with expert blockchain analysis, the 12 victims with quotes from me and 3 others who'd agreed to be named, the estimated $5 million in total losses, his current lifestyle in Bali, complete with the photographs I'd taken showing luxury and excess, expert commentary about cryptocurrency fraud and the challenges of prosecution. The article went absolutely viral within hours. It was shared thousands of times on Twitter, Reddit, and various cryptocurrency forums. Within 2 days, it was picked up by major mainstream news outlets. CNN ran a segment on it. Forbes published a follow-up piece about the broader epidemic of crypto scams. Bloomberg covered it from a regulatory perspective. Damien Cross wasn't a private scammer anymore. He was the public face of cryptocurrency fraud, his photo splashed across the internet, his name synonymous with betrayal. I watched the explosion of attention from my guest house, feeling a complex mix of satisfaction, vindication, and grim determination. The pressure mounted quickly from multiple directions. The U.S. Embassy in Jakarta reached out to me directly, offering consular assistance and connecting me with FBI agents who wanted updated information. The FBI renewed their investigation with significantly increased urgency and resources now that the case had major public attention. Indonesian immigration authorities, facing international scrutiny and embarrassed by the suggestion that they were harboring foreign criminals, began looking into Damien's visa status and financial activities in the country. Damien's carefully constructed paradise began crumbling in real time. His social media accounts went completely dark, all posts deleted or accounts deactivated. The friends who'd surrounded him at beach clubs suddenly stopped posting photos with him. The co-working spaces and cafes where he'd been a regular suddenly had staff who claimed they'd never seen him. He'd become toxic, a pariah, someone people distanced themselves from as quickly as possible. Then, in early November, I received a message that made my heart skip a beat. It was from Damien, sent through Instagram direct message to one of my fake accounts that he somehow knew was me. "We need to talk. Meet me at Drifter tomorrow, 10 a.m. Come alone or with whoever you want. I don't care anymore. Let's end this." I screenshotted the message immediately and sent it to Aria, the journalist, and to Patricia from the victims group, and to my sister. Then I responded, "I'll be there, and I'm bringing witnesses." I showed up the next morning with Aria, the journalist, and Robert, another victim who'd flown out to Bali to join me. Robert had lost $400,000 to Damien's scheme, money he'd been saving for his daughter's college education and his retirement. He'd every right to be there, to see Damien face to face. Damien was already seated when we arrived, looking nothing like the confident, tanned paradise dweller I'd confronted weeks earlier. He looked exhausted, defeated. Deep, dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hair was messy and unwashed. The tan had faded to a sickly pallor. He'd aged years in just weeks. "You've made your point," he said without preamble as we sat down. "The article, the media attention, the public exposure. You've completely destroyed me. Are you satisfied now?" "Destroyed you?" Robert's voice was shaking with rage. "You destroyed us. You stole my daughter's college fund. You stole money I'd saved for 30 years. And you have the audacity to act like you're the victim here?" Damien held his hands in a gesture of surrender. "I know, you're right. I'm not the victim. I did terrible things to people who trusted me. I'm ready to make a deal. I can't return everything because a lot of the money is genuinely gone. I made risky trades trying to multiply it, trying to make enough to actually pay everyone back, and I lost. But I have what's left. I can return about 80% of what was stolen, $800,000 total, distributed proportionally among all the victims." "That's not nearly good enough," I said coldly. "You stole $5 million. We want full restitution." "It's gone," Damien's composure cracked, his voice rising desperately. "I spent it on this lifestyle trying to maintain appearances. I lost huge amounts in leveraged trades that went wrong. I gambled on shitcoins that collapsed. I don't have $5 million to give you. I don't even have $2 million, but I have $800,000 in cryptocurrency right now, today, that I can transfer immediately. It's this or nothing. Take it or leave it." Aria was recording everything on her phone. Robert and I exchanged glances. We discussed this exact scenario in our victim group chat, debating what we'd do if Damien offered partial restitution. "We want 50% minimum," I said firmly, $1.25 million, and we want a full confession on camera. You admit everything in detail, every lie, every manipulation, the entire scheme from beginning to end. You name every victim, detail every transaction, explain exactly how you did it. That video goes to the FBI, to prosecutors, to the media, to everyone. You give up any right to claim this was just a failed investment. You admit it was fraud." Damien's jaw clenched, muscles twitching. "You want me to completely incriminate myself? To hand prosecutors a gift-wrapped case?" "You're already incriminated," Robert interjected. "The article made sure of that. The FBI is building their case right now. Indonesian authorities are investigating your visa status and will likely deport you soon. This is your only chance to show any cooperation, any remorse. Maybe, just maybe, prosecutors will consider your cooperation when it comes to sentencing. But more importantly, we deserve to hear you admit what you did. We deserve that closure." Damien sat in silence for several long minutes, staring at the table, his hands trembling slightly. The busy cafe continued around us, tourists laughing, digital nomads working on laptops, completely oblivious to the life-altering negotiation happening at our table. Finally, he looked up and nodded. "Okay, $1 million. I can scrape together that much by liquidating everything I have left, and I'll do the confession. Full details, complete transparency. But I need something in return. I need written agreement from all 12 victims that you won't pursue any additional civil lawsuits beyond what's already been filed. I can't give you immunity from criminal prosecution because that's not mine to offer, but I need protection from endless civil litigation that will drain whatever I might earn in the future. We negotiated for another 3 hours, going back and forth on specific terms. Eventually, we settled on $1 million in cryptocurrency to be distributed proportionally among all victims, plus his full video concession detailing the entire criminal scheme. We couldn't legally guarantee no future lawsuits because some victims might not agree, but we pledged to recommend to the group that they accept this settlement and not pursue further civil action. The victims group had an emergency video call that night, all 12 of us, connecting from different time zones, different countries, united by the common experience of being betrayed. We voted. It wasn't unanimous. Some people wanted to hold out for full restitution or nothing, but 10 out of 12 voted to accept Damien's offer. 2 days later, we met at a lawyer's office in Denpasar that Arya had helped us find. Damien sat in front of a professional camera setup and confessed everything. The video was 90 minutes long and absolutely devastating to watch. He explained how he'd conceived the scam after legitimately making some money in early cryptocurrency investments, how he'd realized he could easily create fake dashboards showing fabricated returns because most people didn't understand blockchain well enough to verify independently, how he deliberately targeted people at crypto conferences who were new to the space, enthusiastic but inexperienced, perfect marks, how he'd used classic Ponzi scheme structure, paying early investors with new investors' money to create the illusion of success, how he'd cultivated friendships specifically to lower people's defenses and make them trust him implicitly. I convinced myself I could make it work somehow, that I could eventually generate enough real returns through trading to cover what I'd promised people. But I couldn't. The market moved against me. I made bad trades. I was in too deep, and instead of facing what I'd done, admitting failure and taking responsibility, I ran like a coward. I took what was left and fled to Bali, planning to disappear and start over with a new identity eventually. He specifically apologized to each victim by name. When he got to me, his voice cracked. "Emma, you were a real friend to me. That part wasn't fake. I genuinely enjoyed our time together, our friendship, your friendship, which makes what I did to you even worse. I betrayed someone who cared about me, who trusted me completely. There's no excuse for that. I'm sorry." I felt absolutely nothing hearing those words. No satisfaction, no closure, no relief. Just emptiness where friendship used to be. The cryptocurrency transfer happened that afternoon under supervision of the lawyer and a local blockchain expert Arya had brought in to verify everything. $1 million in Bitcoin, split according to each victim's original investment proportion. I received $162,000 deposited directly into a wallet I controlled. Not as much as I'd lost when accounting for the returns I'd believed I was earning, but significantly more than I'd realistically hoped to recover. The video confession was sent immediately to the FBI field office handling the case, to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and to multiple media outlets. It went viral even faster than the original article. Damien confessing in his own words, admitting to deliberate fraud, detailing his manipulation tactics. It was everything prosecutors could have hoped for. Damien was arrested by Indonesian immigration authorities the following week on visa violations and overstaying charges. After brief detention in Indonesia, he was extradited to the United States in February 2024 to face federal charges. The video confession had given prosecutors everything they needed for an airtight case. I flew back to San Francisco in late November 2023, physically and emotionally exhausted, but fundamentally vindicated. The money I'd recovered didn't replace everything I'd lost. I was still down about $38,000 when accounting for all my expenses, including the Bali trip, legal fees, and lost investment returns. But it was enough to rebuild. I moved into a smaller, cheaper apartment in Oakland instead of San Francisco. I rebuilt my emergency savings slowly and carefully. I returned to my software engineering job, throwing myself into work as a way to process everything that had happened. The trial took place in June 2024 in federal court in San Francisco. Damien pled guilty to multiple counts of wire fraud and money laundering as part of a plea agreement. His lawyers had argued for leniency based on his cooperation, his confession, and his partial restitution. The prosecution had pushed for the maximum sentence based on the scale of the fraud and the number of victims. At the sentencing hearing, I gave a victim impact statement along with 3 other victims. I'd prepared carefully, writing and rewriting my statement dozens of times. "Your Honor," I began, looking directly at Damien, who sat at the defense table, refusing to meet my eyes. Damien Cross didn't just steal money from me. Money can be earned back, saved again, replaced eventually. What he stole was something far more valuable and far harder to recover. He stole my ability to trust people. He stole my confidence in my own judgment. He stole months of my life to anxiety, depression, and fear. He stole my sense of security in the world. My voice remained steady as I continued. He looked me in the eyes hundreds of times and lied. He weaponized our friendship, turned genuine human connection into a tool for theft. He made me doubt everything: my intelligence, my instincts, my ability to read people. Those scars will last far longer than any financial loss. I paused, collecting my thoughts. But I want the court to know something important. Damien Cross also inadvertently gave me something. He showed me that I'm stronger than I knew, that I can fight back against injustice, that I refuse to be a victim. I tracked him across the world. I exposed his crimes. I helped build the case that brought him here today, and I've turned that experience into something meaningful. I looked at the judge. I now work as a consultant with the FBI on cryptocurrency fraud cases. I speak at conferences about identifying scams. I've helped other victims recover their money and find closure. I've turned the worst experience of my life into a mission to protect others. So, while I can never forgive what Damien did, I can thank him for showing me who I really am when pushed to my limit. I'm asking the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of his crimes and sends a message that cryptocurrency fraud has real consequences. The judge sentenced Damien to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. He was ordered to pay full restitution of the remaining amount owed to victims, to be garnished from any future earnings. It wasn't the maximum possible sentence, but it was substantial enough to feel like justice. Damien turned to look at the victims in the courtroom as he was led away. I don't know what he was searching for in our faces. Forgiveness? Understanding? Closure? Whatever it was, he didn't find it. We watched him leave in handcuffs without expression. Today, nearly 2 years after the nightmare began, I'm rebuilding my life on my own terms. I've recovered financially, though I'm more cautious now with every dollar I earn. I still invest in cryptocurrency, only through regulated platforms like Coinbase and Kraken, only in established coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and never more than I can afford to completely lose. I treat it like the speculative investment it is, not a path to guaranteed wealth. The victim support group that 12 of us started has grown to include over 300 people who've been scammed in various cryptocurrency schemes. We share resources, offer emotional support, help track down scammers when possible, and most importantly, help each other heal from the trauma of financial betrayal. We've successfully helped law enforcement recover over $3 million for fraud victims by providing blockchain analysis and investigative support. My consulting work with the FBI has become a significant part of my life. I've helped identify patterns in crypto scams, provided expert testimony in several cases, and assisted in recovering funds for victims. I speak at cryptocurrency conferences and financial literacy events about the red flags I missed, the psychological manipulation tactics scammers use, and the importance of independent verification before trusting anyone with your money. The warning signs were there all along, I realize now. Returns that were consistently too good to be true, a private, unregistered investment fund with no third-party oversight, pressure to invest more, even if subtle, the lack of verifiable, independent proof of the trading strategy. But I missed them all because I trusted the person more than I trusted the facts. That's the lesson I try to impart to others. Trust should never override evidence. Verify everything independently, especially when it involves your money. My sister Rebecca says I should be bitter, angry, traumatized by everything that happened. And maybe I am those things sometimes, in quiet moments late at night when I think about how different my life would be if I'd never met Damien Cross. But mostly, I'm grateful. Grateful that I fought back instead of accepting defeat. Grateful that I had the resources and determination to pursue justice across the world. Grateful that I turned devastation into purpose. Sometimes I wonder about Damien, sitting in federal prison with 6 more years left on his sentence. Does he regret what he did? Does he think about the people he hurt? Has he genuinely changed, or does he just regret getting caught? I'll probably never know, and I've made peace with that uncertainty. What I do know is this: he chose the wrong person to betray. He thought I'd be like most victims, too embarrassed or defeated to fight back, willing to accept my loss and move on quietly. He fundamentally misunderstood who I am. I'm a problem solver, a software engineer trained to debug complex systems and find solutions. I approach challenges methodically, and I don't give up easily. Those same qualities that made me good at my job made me relentless in pursuing justice. I think about that moment in the Bali cafe when Damien told me to go home, told me I was wasting my time, told me he'd covered his tracks too well for me to ever touch him. I wish I could go back to that moment and whisper to my past self, "Don't worry, you're going to win. You're stronger than he knows. You're stronger than you know." The money has been replaced, the career has recovered, the nightmares have faded, but the most important thing I've gained is something money can't buy: unshakable knowledge of my own strength. When everything was taken from me, when I'd been betrayed by someone I trusted completely, when the odds seemed impossibly stacked against me, I fought back, and I won. If you're reading this and you've been scammed, if you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you're dealing with financial devastation that seems insurmountable, please hear this. You are not alone. You are not stupid. You are not powerless. The shame you feel belongs to the person who scammed you, not to you. You made a decision based on trust and manipulation, which says something good about your character, not something bad. Fight back in whatever way you can. Tell your story. Warn others. Report to authorities, even if you think nothing will come of it. Join support groups. Seek therapy if needed. And most importantly, refuse to let your scammer define you as a victim. You're a survivor. You're a fighter. You're someone who will come back from this stronger than before. I found my scammer living in paradise, enjoying my stolen money without a care in the world. I exposed him, I chased him across continents, I helped send him to prison. It took everything I had, my savings, my time, my emotional energy, but it was worth every sleepless night, every dollar spent, every moment of fear and doubt. Because when I look in the mirror now, I don't see a victim of cryptocurrency fraud. I see someone who refused to accept injustice. I see someone who turned pain into power, devastation into determination. I see someone who proved that sometimes, against all odds, justice actually does prevail. Damien Cross stole my money, but he couldn't steal who I am. And in the end, that's what really matters. The money has been replaced. Trust can be rebuilt carefully and wisely, but knowing that you stood up for yourself, that you fought against evil and won, that you transformed your worst experience into your greatest strength, that's something absolutely no one can ever take away from you. You're stronger than you think. Fight back. Your story doesn't end with being scammed. It's just beginning.